Proverbs Chapter 4. We are going to talk about something very important today out of this chapter. Let's begin with verses 26 and 27. It says, "Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Turn not to the right hand or to the left. Remove your foot from evil." Okay, there are 2 points from this passage that I'm going to highlight. The word translated as ponder is not talking about just simply an intellectual exercise, just the process of thinking about something, but rather by the sentence structure, it's a command. It's to actively, personally smooth, level, or straighten out a path from the obstacles that are upon it. So obviously when a path is rough, uneven, crooked, or littered with boulders or obstacles, the traveler's progress is going to be slowed, overworked, and then the traveler will be sometimes stopped. So the first message from this passage is to take personal responsibility to eliminate or minimize the effects of known or probable hindrances to a goal. Now that is very important. Let me say that one more time. A message from this passage is to take personal responsibility to eliminate or to minimize effects of known or probable hindrances to a goal. So there are practical and spiritual applications to this principle. When it comes to goal setting, as far as like time management, we are our own worst enemy. That's very common, very human. So for example, like if you want to ace a test, there are factors over which you do have personal control. How much time you study, how much time you spend just watching TV or doing the internet, whatever. Spiritually speaking, it's not wisdom. It's not leveling your path by choice to put yourself into positions, circumstances where you would constantly have to be compromising your faith in serious foundational ways to survive in that circumstance, in that environment. That's not wisdom. To knowingly put yourself in a place, unless God has just explicitly told you, go walk in that lion's den. To do that, put yourself in a position to where you know you are going to have to be faced with compromising situations very, very often. So there are circumstances in life in which you have no personal control over. But the ones you do, to take control over. Your own management can make your life easier or harder. This principle is also found in Hebrews 12:1, which says, "Seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight," let us, choice involved here, "and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." Now this verse in Hebrews dovetails into the second point from Proverbs that I'm going to make again. Again, our verses are, "Ponder the path of your feet, let all your ways be established, turn not to the right hand nor to the left, and remove your foot from evil." So we are supposed to have a laser-like focus on the finish line. That is point 1. Point number 2, live deliberately. Live deliberately. Serve God deliberately. So let's break that down. You can break that down, what it means to live deliberately. But let's think about this. Procrastination. "Oh, I'm not going to do this." Well, one of my favorite slogans that has really helped motivate me is, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, it's learning to dance in the rain. And so that's a motivational quote that helps me to don't put things off. Do it. Just go do it. Try it. Another way to applicationally break that down as to what it means to live deliberately is to live within the boundaries of your priorities. Live within the boundaries of your priorities. Now, there's a story which many of you may be completely familiar with, but I believe really, really makes this point. And I'm going to read it to you. Don't know where it came from. You can find 1,001 different versions of it. But here's the version that I am most familiar with. Very briefly, here's a story. I'm going to read you a story. A professor of philosophy stood before his class with some items in front of him. When the class began, wordlessly he picked up a large mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with rocks about 2 inches in diameter. Then he asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was full. So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar and shook the jar slightly and watched as the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the rocks. The professor then asked the students again, "Is the jar full?" They chuckled and agreed that it was indeed full this time. The professor picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled the remaining open areas of the jar. "Now," said the professor, "I want you to recognize that this jar signifies your life. The rocks are the truly important things, such as family, health, relationships. If all else was lost and only the rocks remained, your life would still be meaningful or full. The pebbles are the other things that matter in your life, such as work or school. The sand signifies the small stuff and material possessions. If you put the sand into the jar first, there is no room for the rocks or pebbles. The same can be applied to your lives. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are truly important. Pay attention to the things in life that are critical to your happiness or well-being. Take time to get medical checkups, play with your children, go for a run, write your grandmother a letter. There will always be time to work, clean the house, or fix the disposal. Take care of rocks first, things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just pebbles and sand." That's a great story, and I believe it really does truly illustrate what it means to live within the boundaries of your priorities. Now, the first thing, a first things first, attitude is a way to live deliberately. A first things first attitude is a way to live deliberately. Now, there's a quote from Henry David Thoreau, who's a philosopher. He lived in the mid-1800s, that I want to read to you. Quote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to prove what was not life. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms." That's a good quote. Live deliberately. Here are a few scriptures that speak to this same principle. Psalm 119:59. "I thought on my ways and turned my feet to your testimonies." Lamentations 3:40. "Let us search and try our ways and turn again to the Lord." 2 Corinthians 13:5. "Examine yourselves whether you be in the faith. Prove your own selves." Galatians 6:4. "But each one must examine his own work." Psalm 37:23. "The steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord. He delights in his way." Psalm 119:133. Order my steps in thy word. Let not any iniquity have dominion over me. Psalm 17:5. Hold up my goings in your paths, that my footsteps will not slide. So we see that all throughout the Bible are the principles of making life easier on yourself by taking your personal responsibility. So if there is something that's hindering you to do what you need to do, then do what you need to do by getting rid of it. Change so you can live deliberately with fullness, with a full jar of mayonnaise, or a full mayonnaise jar, as the case may be. I want to read a verse or two out of the book of Ephesians, chapter 5. It says, let me find my verse here. Where did it go? Okay. Verse 16 and 17. It's very simple. Redeem the time, because the days are evil. Be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Live deliberately. Live as if Jesus is coming back. Live as if Yeshua is coming back soon, because he is. For each of us has a time on this life, and we need to live deliberately, because we will see the Messiah. Until next time, guys, be blessed. Bye-bye.